It looks like we're recording, so I will start talking. Today we are going to discuss the Konjunktiv II. The Konjunktiv I is one that's a little unnecessary for the level that we're at. The Konjunktiv II is the one that's a little bit more useful. Stick with it if you're curious about it, though. About the Konjunktiv I. Okay, Konjunktiv II is something that we have. I'm just going to mute this. Sorry, I should have done that earlier. Konjunktiv II is something that we have basically the same form of in English. With a little bit of difference when it comes to the word order, but more or less it's the same in English. So the subjunctive in the English, the Konjunktiv II, is very similar to English. The would do, so it's would plus another verb. It's used for, these are some instances where we would use this stuff, contrary to fact statements or irrealities. So, ich würde kommen, aber ich habe keine Zeit. I would come, but I have no time. For wishes, ich würde so gern kommen. I would really like to come. And that could be that you're going to come if you can, or that you would come but you can't, stuff like that. Conditional statements, so things that, like, given a certain condition, this would happen. Given another condition, that would happen, right? So, wenn ich mehr Zeit haben würde, if I had more time, würde ich kommen. So, if I would have more time, I would come. And then polite request, würdest du bitte kommen? Would you please come? Right? So, polite request, think about that in comparison to like an imperative, come, right? And that's not so polite, right? Generally, the more words involved, the politer it is. So there's like come, and that's an imperative, that's a command. And then there's would you please come, right? So those are, there's a difference there between a polite request using this Konjunktiv II and an imperative. We gonna go further? Yeah, good. Okay. So, my mouse is acting real screwy. There you are. Hi. So, once again, we have a sort of verbal construction that needs two elements, right? So we have würden, which is the sort of helping verb in this situation, and that's what gets conjugated for the subject, and then you might have guessed this, at the end of the subject comes the infinitive. So that's very similar to modal verbs, right? Where you have the modal verb and that gets conjugated for the subject, and then the infinitive comes at the end, right? So I think they're just spelling out to you like what form of werden, würde is, right? So werden is a verb on its own. It means to grow or to become, right? So if I say es wird kalt, so looking at this third person here, es wird kalt, that means it's growing cold or it's getting cold, right? Or it's becoming cold. And then if I used that to describe yesterday, for example, es wurde kalt, it became cold, it grew cold, it got cold. Well, you slap an umlaut on there, looking at the form from the preteritum to the conjunctive, you slap an umlaut on there, and it becomes this would, right? And that can't really stand on its own, right? You would what, right? You need another infinitive there, or another verb there to sort of complete that thought. So these two first, the indicative and the preteritum, they can work on their own, to grow or to become, grew or became. But when you hop over to Konjunktiv II, you need würde plus another infinitive or another verb. And you could say ich würde werden, I would become, right? just like you can say, I have had. Sorry, I digress. Würden functions like a modal verb. Right, I just said that. Place würden in the position of the conjugated verb with the infinitive at the end of the clause. So here are some example sentences using this würden and then like another verb at the end of the sentence or clause. So würden Sie mir bitte helfen? So would you please help me? An deiner Stelle würde ich zum Arzt gehen. So you're going to see this phrase an deiner Stelle or an ihrer Stelle a lot in the exercises and in the coming pages. An deiner Stelle or an ihrer Stelle, depending on whether it's formal or informal, means in your position. Okay, so notice it's an deiner Stelle würde, and then the subject ich comes directly after that. So an deiner Stelle würde ich zum Arzt gehen. In your position, I would go to the doctor. Okay. Or if I were you, yeah, whatever. Ich glaube, ich würde mit ihr gehen. So, ich glaube is I believe. Ich würde mit ihr gehen. I would go with her. I think I would go with her. I believe I would go with her. Whatever. So this this last sentence here is an example of a wish. Usually you cannot have a sentence that starts with wenn and doesn't have like another clause, because you say wenn means if or whenever, right? So if you think about Gwen Stefani's well, I guess it's from Fiddler on the Roof. She says, if I were a rich girl, right? Well, you need another thought to finish that sentence. If I were a rich girl is not a complete thought. Similarly, in German, you generally don't have wenn with a wenn clause without another clause to clarify. However, if you're using wenn and then you see the word nur and then this Konjunktiv II construction or the subjunctive with it, you're expressing a wish, and it means if only something, okay? And you need that exclamation point. So, wenn nur mitkommen würde, if only he would come along, if he would only come with, right? So the an deiner Stelle or wenn nur, those are common constructions that get used, or common phrases that get used with this Konjunktiv II. Let's see. Use würden plus the infinitive with a wenn clause in the subjunctive to describe a hypothetical situation. So notice what's missing here is that nur, right? Wenn blah 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 nur blah 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 is if only, right? Here, however, we're just having wenn and a different form of the Konjunktiv II that we'll talk about in the next video. So it's like, if you would be more careful, you would not... sorry, it's right below it. Why am I translating it? If you were more careful, you wouldn't hurt yourself so much. Okay? So that's what I was saying, or sort of indicating when I was talking about usually wenn clauses can't stand on their own. So he says, if you were more careful. Well, if you were more careful, what, right? And so that second clause clarifies the what, you know? It's the same thing with this next sentence. If I had a toothache, I would go to the dentist. Wenn ich Zahnschmerzen hätte, würde ich zum Arzt gehen. So that's, sorry, I'm going to adjust this camera real quick. So notice they've put both of the wenn clauses in the front of the sentence. You can have them come in the second position, or in the second part of the sentence. But what's more important is that you realize that after the wenn clause, then you have your verb and then you have your subject, right? So, wenn ich Zahnschmerzen hätte, Komma, würde ich bla 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 bla, right? And then, wenn du vorsichtiger wärst, Komma, würdest du bla 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 bla, okay? So, it's important to realize that if there's a clause in the first part of the sentence, there's going to be a comma, and then your verb, and then your subject. Okay. Yeah, we can see more examples of that down here. I'm frustrated that they didn't have any examples with wenn in the second position, in the second clause, but that's fine. Okay. Using würden or use würden plus infinitive to express wishes, give advice, make polite requests, or ask questions. It's like I know how to use the Konjunktiv II. Okay, so I wanted to give you all a second to sort of get your eye used to this. It says decide whether or not decide if the sentence is a question, a wish, ein Ratschlag, a piece of advice, or a hypothetische Situation, a hypothetical situation. So you're going to read these and you're going to decide whether or not it's a question, a wish, a piece of advice, or a hypothetical situation. I think there's some bleed over between, or there can be some bleed over between those categories. So, if you feel like it's both of them, put both of them. We'll talk about it. But for right now, you can do timeout, pause the video, and come back, and we'll go further. Okay, würdest du dich auf einen Besuch freuen? Well, it's a question, right? You see the question. I don't know. Yeah, that seems kind of obvious. I don't know, whatever. An ihrer Stelle. So this is the formal version of if I were you or if I were in your position, right? So, an ihrer Stelle würde ich mehr Gemüse essen. If I were you, I would eat more vegetables. So that's a piece of advice. It's also hypothetical, right? Like, if I were you, that's hypothetical. I would do this thing, right? Okay. Sie würden gern Musik hören. I don't really get this one. You would gladly hear music. You would gladly hear music. Is that a wish? I don't really know. I don't get that one. Anyways, würden Sie bitte den Arzt rufen? Would you please call the doctor? That sounds like A, B, right? It's both a question and a wish, a desire, right? Like, I want you to call the doctor. I wish that you would call the doctor. So here is a third-person example of an Stelle. So this is in his position, or if I were him. An seiner Stelle würde ich keinen Kaffee trinken. If I were him, I wouldn't drink any coffee. So that's like C or D, right? It's a hypothetical situation and a piece of advice. Würde sich nicht verletzen. He would not injure himself. I guess that's a hypothetical situation. It's such a weird sentence. Whatever. Wenn ich Rückenschmerzen hätte, würde ich mich hinlegen. Right, so that seems hypothetical and like a Ratschlag, right? So if I had back pain, and I do, würde ich mich hinlegen. I would do this thing. I guess it's more of a hypothetical situation, you know what I mean? Like, if this were true, then I would do this. But it also sounds like a piece of advice, ein Ratschlag. Ich würde gern nach Hause gehen. Sounds like a wish to me, right? I would like to go home. An deiner Stelle, so in your position, or if I were you, würde ich zum Arzt gehen. I would go to the doctor. So I CD, it's a piece of advice, but it's also hypothetical. Würdest du mir bitte das Thermometer geben? Would you please give me the thermometer? That's a question, also a wish. Maybe there's a stronger line between those two, but I'm not seeing it. Würden Sie lieber mit der Ärztin oder mit dem Arzt sprechen? And that's a question, right? So would you rather speak with the female doctor or the male doctor? Okay, so I think this is maybe the second to last. There's a few exercises, just a few here, and then a few on the next one. Then we'll call it quits. So this, on the one side, you have sentences that explain reality, and then you're supposed to express a wish, right? So you can do that in one way we've already seen. Wenn es nur schneien würde. If only, this nur is only, right? If only, es would be it, right? So if only it would snow. Or, ich wünsche mir, dass es schneien würde. I wish to myself. Wünschen is a reflexive. We just saw those, right? It's a reflexive with the dative. Ich wünsche mir, dass es schneien würde. I wish to myself that it would snow. It's also important to know that you can wish someone else something. So ich wünsche dir. I wish to you that something would happen. Ich wünsche dir einen schönen Tag. I wish to you a nice day, right? So while this might look weird to us, the dative I think looks weird to all English speakers. It gets used not just reflexively, but basically you can use it almost any time you use wünschen. Okay, so der Garten ist trocken und der Rasen ist braun. So I'm guessing going to say that you would like it to snow. Ich kann dich nicht besuchen. Ich habe keine Zeit. So maybe you're going to wish that you could visit, or maybe you're going to wish that you had more time. Du hast kein Geld und kannst nicht ins Kino gehen. You're going to wish that you could go to the movie theater or that you had more money. Dein Lieblingsfilm kommt im Fernsehen, aber du hast Unterricht. Right, so your favorite movie is on TV, but you have to go to Unterricht is class. Instruction. Number 4 is obviously not a problem anymore. Now that we all have Netflix or whatever. So pause and fill out these answers however you want to. I'll discuss what I said. Right. Okay. So der Garten ist trocken und der Rasen ist braun. Ich wünsche mir, dass es regnen würde. I wish that it would rain. Oder wenn es nur regnen würde. If you want to go the other route, right? Wenn es nur regnen würde. If only it would rain. Okay, ich kann dich nicht besuchen. Ich habe keine Zeit. Ich wünsche mir, dass ich Zeit haben würde. I wish that I would have time. Oder wenn ich nur mehr Zeit haben würde. If only I would have more time. If only I would have more time. Wenn ich nur mehr Zeit haben würde. Whew, that's hard to wrap your mouth around. Du hast kein Geld und kannst nicht ins Kino gehen. Ich wünsche mir, dass ich Geld haben würde oder mehr Geld haben würde. Or wenn ich nur mehr Geld haben würde. Or wenn ich nur ins Kino gehen könnte. If I could only go to the movies. Dein Lieblingsfilm kommt im Fernsehen, aber du hast Unterricht. Ich wünsche mir, dass ich keinen Unterricht haben würde. I wish that I would have no instruction or no class. Oder wenn ich nur keinen Unterricht haben würde. Okay? I don't know how much time we're on, but let's see if we can blow by this one sort of together. So, this is more examples of that. An Stelle würde ich etwas machen, right? So this first one is an seiner Stelle, so in his position, or if I were him, würde ich ein Boot bauen. I would build a boat. So we'll just go through this real quick. An seiner Stelle was? Boot, Brille tragen, Automechaniker einladen, sehr still bleiben. I guess this one is eine Brille. Is that, what is he cutting? I would pay attention to what he was doing, is what I would do. An seiner Stelle würde ich eine Brille tragen, is what I would say. Eine Brille tragen. I would wear glasses. I don't know. An ihrer Stelle, so on in their positions, or if I were them, ihr being the possessive of sie, they, right? So sie is they, ihr is their, right? So in their position. Würde ich sehr still bleiben? Is that the advice for like grizzly bears or whatever? Sehr still bleiben is to stay still. An ihrer Stelle würde ich sehr still bleiben. Okay? Er ist böse, der hat eine Panne oder sein Auto ist kaputt. So, in his position, an seiner Stelle, würde ich den Automechaniker anrufen. Okay? I would call the auto mechanic. Once again, we have in their position, or if I were them, right? So, an ihrer Stelle würde ich an Land schwimmen. I would swim to land. Würde ich, an ihrer Stelle würde ich an Land schwimmen. Okay, so that is the introduction to Konjunktiv II, the iteration of it where you use würde plus the infinitive. We'll see something different in the next video, the other video, I don't know what order you're watching these in. So, anyways, let me know if you have any questions, and I hope this was helpful. All right, take her easy. Get me out of here. Ah!